What is up, Endgame fam? Welcome to another Wednesday edition of the live Q&A. Here to answer all your fantasy baseball questions, wherever you got. Let's do it. Let's figure out what's going on these days in Major League Baseball. Things constantly changing. The only constant is change after all, and so you've got to keep up with it all. Talk about what is newsworthy, and of course, most importantly, your teams. I want to know what questions you got. Want to know maybe who to pick up before the waiver wire video comes out for this week, who to put in your lineup, who you should be worried about, whatever. Let's go through it and figure out what's going on. So thank you all for being here. Let's actually go over the latest news so far for this week. I do want to talk about the Rangers because there's not been a lot to talk about as far as offense with the Rangers. Their pitching staff has been, pretty solid and surprisingly consistent, right? They haven't had too many injuries, although I guess the guys we expected most to get injured haven't. They do have some injuries, but what pitching staff doesn't? Man, that offense, second worst in the majors, and that's been all season. Like, if it wasn't for the Rockies being historically bad, which they are still on pace to be basically last year's White Sox, I think they'll turn it around, at least to some extent. But the Rangers would be the worst offense, and they are the worst in the AL. But you got to wonder. I really want to take a look at yesterday's game, so it's really interesting. You could look at it two ways. Now, Lucas Giolito was one of the top, he was the top two-start streamer this coming week. All right, so when we do the Sunday stream, we always talk about which guys have two starts, favorable matchups that are available, and Lucas Giolito was on it. I was very, very, very skeptical about Giolito. I didn't want to think about him, and then his first start, he looked great. Okay, he racked up some strikeouts. He went pretty deep in the game. And so, okay, we can't just ignore this. Let's pay attention because it just so happened he had an amazing schedule this week because the Rangers were first on tap. And the Rangers either made Lucas Giolito look like what he had been, basically the last time he pitched, because remember, the last time he actually did pitch in 2023 towards the end, after he got shuffled around to a couple of different teams, it was pretty awful. Before that, he was good, right? But he had been bad, and then he got hurt. So I was out. I just didn't want any part of it. And then, all right, reluctantly had to recommend him. But I said, I don't feel good about it. So now I'm wondering, okay, does this just so happen to be Lucas Giolito becoming his self of what we had seen before the injury, right? The bad version. Or is this the Rangers? Because just 2 days ago, it was yesterday, I feel like it's just happened, but I can't remember if I'm missing a day. The Rangers, they're like, we got to do something, right? A few days ago, Jake Berger, who I'm still holding out hope for, he got sent down, and you can see why. Batting average was just ridiculously bad. Not as bad as Jock Peterson, who was still around, but okay, they can't option Peterson. He's too old, and Berger had an option. All right. So they sent Berger down. They also let go of Leody Taveras, who hadn't really been playing much. So they're shuffling, and then they got rid of their offensive coordinator, who, by the way, raise your hand if you knew that baseball teams have offensive coordinators. I know there's a hitting coach, and they still have their hitting coach. This isn't this. This is an offensive coordinator, I guess the guy who oversees everything. I thought that was just a football term, but okay. So whoever it was, he's gone. And then they hired Brett Boone. Good old Brett Boone. Remember Brett Boone? I had plenty of shares of Brett Boone in my fantasy teams back in the day. He's the new hitting coordinator. And it just so happened, first day on the job, or I guess you could call it first day after making those changes, they woke up. And so the Rangers had 14 hits. So the question is, and I'm actually curious, what do y'all think? Was this Giolito just regressing to his old bad self, or is this the Rangers, figuring out, hey, man, we got to do something, or something's going to happen to us, And it's not everybody. Corey Seager's still fine when he's actually able to stay on the field. Adolis Garcia, I think, was for the most part hitting fine. He's a little bit streaky. Langford is still fine. But there are a lot of those guys, those fringe guys that you expected to do something, absolutely nothing. Is this team waking up, right? Jock Peterson even had two hits. 2 hits for Jock Peterson. Is this team waking up, right? Was this the slap in the face they needed, or was it about the pitcher? So I'm curious your take on that. I know this Rangers offense could be potent. They have the pieces. It was never about talent or anything. I think this is more about the offense, partly about Giolito, but I'm going to actually give the Rangers benefit of the doubt here. I think maybe this is just bad timing. But man, if Giolito does not look good in his next start, which again is a great matchup, at least it's supposed to be, although again, it might actually be horrible timing. So Giolito is on tap to face the Royals, who had been also one of the lesser offenses, but the Royals lately have all of a sudden been waking up. So maybe Giolito was a trap all along. But anyways, I'm really going to keep more of a close eye on the Rangers offense to see, is this maybe kind of a starting point for them, kickoff to more and better things. And then I do want to, before I get to your questions, because I see them pouring in, want to let you know, because, the waiver wire, I can't do a waiver wire video every day. Once a week is usually good. Try to get it in before the weekends. That way you know how to set your waiver pickups before Sunday night, because I know a lot of these teams, these leagues, you do weekly lineups, you do weekly waiver wire claims, especially NFBC, right? You only get one chance per week. So that's why I do it on the weekend. But if you're in a daily league and you can make moves right now, you know what? Don't wait. So Teoscar Hernandez, who had been one of the best hitters early in the season, first couple of weeks, on the IL, unfortunately. Don't worry, the Dodgers will be fine. I think they'll make up for it. Like, they won't miss him too much. But your fantasy team will probably miss Teoscar, so just know he's sidelined. James Outman is the one who got called up. Not Dalton Rushing. We're hoping it might be Rushing because he's an exciting young player we want to see. Talk about Rushing a lot, but not yet. So Outman, the veteran, he's up there. He had a really nice year a couple of seasons ago. It feels like it's been forever. He still strikes out a bunch. He's still super streaky, but he does have power and he can steal some bases. So he might be interesting. And it is also good to know that just today he had a home run and 3 RBIs. I'm not going out to pick him up as a Teoscar replacement in most leagues. I picked him up in my NL only league. All right. And in NL only league, which is competitive like that, you're basically just glad to get anybody who is a warm body that gets you at bats. And a guy with a upside, some potential, and a good lineup like the Dodgers, yeah, I got him. And so far, so good. But just FYI, that's what's happening in Dodger land. And then Yordan Alvarez on the IL. I mean, this is kind of like an annual ritual. It didn't seem like there was anything outright wrong with him. I know he wasn't been great. Like, I get it. I talked about him as a panic player a couple of weeks ago. I talked about him as buy low. He's going to be better, but not for at least 10 days because he's on the shelf. So keep that in mind. Also interesting to note, by the way, again, could just be coincidence, but first day without Alvarez and the rest of the Astros got to look at each other and like, what do we do now? They actually had a pretty good offensive game. So maybe this is a point where guys figure they've got to pick up the slack. You know what I mean? Sometimes that happens. A good player goes out and it affects the team negatively, as you would think. Sometimes it has the opposite effect, right? Other guys really step up. So you got to wonder. Yainer Diaz, we've been waiting for him to heat up. He's slowly heating up. I just mentioned Jose Altuve in today's video. We'll see if he starts to get a little bit better. The young players at Camp Smith, at the Zenzos. So, again, keep an eye on the Texas teams and see if those offenses continue to heat up. I think that they were going to do it anyways, but maybe now is the like I said, just kind of that linchpin. And then Noelvi Marte, looked like he might finally enjoy his breakout season, but he is now on the IL too, kind of nagging. I think it's a hip issue. He is just another Reds corner infielder who is sidelined. Christian Encarnacion Strand is on the IL. That guy can't stay healthy. Candelario has already been sidelined, and I believe Santiago Espinal, who actually had been hitting really well average-wise. All these guys are injured, so Reese Hines is the guy who got called up. I'm not picking up Reese Hines because, number one, outfielder. This is not a replacement for an infielder. That doesn't mean he'll get at bats. He's just the guy who's replacing Marte on the roster. And then Hines, had that one amazing week, and that's it. So, but just so you know, those guys are out for now. It's time for me to get to your questions, though. Now, before I do start getting to these questions, quick reminder, do as many as we can. Here to hang out with you guys and chat for about an hour or maybe longer, however long it takes to get to your questions. If you have something you absolutely want to guarantee that gets put up, because I'm going to try to get to everybody, but you know how it goes. But if you want to guarantee that your question gets answered and put up on the screen, you can always super chat, or you can do it just from the kindness of your heart. So let's start with Doyle. First one saying hello. All right, Doyle. Would you trade Santander for Bellinger? I have a very, very quick response to that. Try not to make it too quick. If you're giving up Santander to get Bellinger, absolutely do it right now. I know the numbers don't look that different, really. And as far as the power department, Bellinger does have the edge, but, both are, hurting you with batting average. And this isn't just a matter of Bellinger being a Yankee. That helps. I mean, he's clearly in a better lineup, but look, I'll say this with Cody Bellinger, I'm still holding out hope. It may not be one of his, best seasons ever in terms of statistics. Like, he'll do this, right? For him, it's either MVP caliber or waiver wire fodder. Like, there's not much in between with Cody Bellinger. And I thought this year he would get back to being, maybe let's say close to his first year with the Cubs, where again he showed up and looked great. We're not ever getting a Dodger MVP version of Bellinger, but still, he has the power, he has the speed, he can hit for average. If he's healthy and all is good, and why not? Why wouldn't it all happen for him this year? So he's been streaky as he usually is, but the thing with Bellinger, he's still hitting the ball hard. And I witnessed that. Even his outs have been hard outs. I mean, I saw him hit the ball to the warning track twice. And then the next day he did go deep and got a home run. I mean, he's making good contact. He's making good swing decisions and, just overall better situation. So I'm still going to be optimistic about Bellinger as I've been, and I'm still pessimistic about Santander. I said this from the beginning of the season, just coming off a career year and also coming, from Baltimore, which last year, remember, Baltimore was actually kind of good offensively. See if they get back to that. But going to Toronto, just not as good a place for a slugger. I don't typically prefer to get a hitter, or any player, mainly hitters though, coming off career years and also, right after they secure the bag. And, I'm not saying that they slack or anything like that. Maybe it's pressure, variety of reasons, you know what I mean? But you want to get the guys that are trending up, not the ones who are already at the peak and have kind of nowhere to go but down. That's honestly how I felt about Santander. Like, he could only do worse than last year. I didn't think he would do that much worse, but he'll probably get better as the summer goes on. But give me Bellinger pretty easily here. All right, back to back. What is up? All right, so a lot of talk about Ben Kasperius, and a lot of people picked him up for his first start. I get it. I said this all on Sunday. I get it. He's a Dodger, right? He's a young pitcher. He's very, promising. He's been doing well, his limited role so far. I didn't say to go pick him up. I didn't recommend him as a streamer. I was like, let's see what happens. Okay, maybe. Because how is this different from how many other, not just pitchers, Dodger pitchers specifically, that get a shot and we all get excited? Landon Knack, who, by the way, Landon Knack is back up too. Landon Knack is supposed to be a better prospect than Kasperius. There's just so many guys that you want to think that they're going to potentially be these breakout candidates. I don't see it with Kasperius. I think he's fine. Spot start fine, but I'm not all in on him. And again, his first start wasn't bad, but he only went, I think, 4 innings. So I'm not holding here. Honestly, I still have more optimism long-term for Knack. I just think he's a better pitcher. But again, they've gone through so many. Remember Gavin Stone, right? Last year, just over and over again, Bobby Miller, even, I know he had basically half of a really good season. And then I don't know, who knows what happened to him, but yeah, I'm not going to be one of those who just runs out to get Kasperius. I honestly think if this was almost any other franchise besides the Dodgers, a lot less people would even pay attention to him. So I'm not holding him because I never picked him up either. Jay, what is up? Um, would you trade Suarez, Robert Suarez? I'm guessing you said RP for Kim from the Dodgers and Green. Okay, I'm glad there's somebody else besides Kim. So you're asking if I want to trade saves, a bunch of saves. Suarez, one of the leading save getters in the majors. He might be number one right now. So you're swapping out, saves for offense. Yeah, fine with this. Now I don't know the context of your league. If it's just your typical roto league, this is typically, I would think, okay, what is this going to help you with in terms of your roster makeup and your categories? If you're fine on saves, Suarez already got you a bunch, and maybe you have at least one or two good other closers. Yeah, you can always pick up saves from the waiver wire. I know easier said than done. I know a lot of times you regret it because you pick up the closer du jour and then he, kills your ratios and then he loses a job. Yeah, okay, so that happens, but you can still potentially get saves from the waiver wire. You're not going to pick up a hitter like Riley Green off the waiver wire. And I like Kim. A lot of people are sleeping on Kim. This is what I think is funny. That guy like Kasperius is getting so much attention when he might make a couple of starts and that's it for the Dodgers. And not sure he even is going to do well. And Kim now, especially with the injuries they've got, Edman is out. No, he'll be back soon. But then Teoscar's out, which means maybe Edman plays outfield. Kim might be a staple in the Dodgers lineup for the rest of the season. I mean, who knows? And I would gladly take that over a pitcher. So if you're trading Suarez to get those two, yeah, I'm always willing to do that. What you then could do, now, I, again, don't know how deep your rosters go, but if Suarez does happen to get injured, you could hedge your bet and pick up Jason Adam there in San Diego. And that way, if something happens, you just got the Padres closer back. At their very least, you don't have to do that because Suarez has been really dependable. Is maybe just keep him on the watch list. And if you hear of a Suarez injury or potential injury, you be the first to run to the waiver wire and jump on it and get Jason Adam. And then you just, got yourself a bunch of saves back. All right, BZ 24. 12 team categories, Stott or McLean the rest of the way. So I did, as you know, probably talk about McLean recently. I do think that McLean could be somebody that you buy into. I didn't say he's a buy low. I think he's just a hold if you have him. Stott is kind of now down to the point where he's borderline. In a 12-team categories league, I don't feel like he's a must hold. He still has value, of course, but I don't feel like to the point where, if I let Stott go on the waiver wire, I'm going to regret it. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we've seen what he can do, and it's fine. It's serviceable, but he's not getting you, he's not helping you big time in any specific category. Maybe runs scored. Sure, he'll score a bunch of runs because he's in that Phillies lineup, but some steals, but nothing that you're going to really miss long term, I don't think. And look, McLean's going to get you steals. Power, clearly McLean is better in the power category. I mean, we know that. And McLean scores runs too because he's at the top of the Reds order as opposed to Stott hitting at the bottom of the Phillies order. So statistically right now, these guys look pretty similar. But I think with Stott, what you got is what you're getting. And with McLean, I think there's still a much higher ceiling left. So give me the upside, riskier, sure. Give me McLean. And honestly, I'm wondering, looking here, Stott, he's owned in most typical 12-team leagues, 83% rostered in Yahoo. But, if you drop him, is everybody fighting to get him off the waiver wire? Someone might pick him up, but I don't think that it's a huge loss. Okay, let's get to MK. So let's back to Kim here. Hyesung Kim and Andy Paha. So you can only add one? Interesting. Who to add between the two? I will say just point blank, even before Andy Pajes was on his tear, he's still the better offensive player. Remember that he was before this tear that he was on, he was ice cold. He was hitting below 200, and he's looked like he might get sent down again. But then he made up for it. But even like go back to last year, he was one of their top prospects. He's got massive power. He's been in the outfield all season long, even through his struggles, because the team believes in him and it's paying off. I like Kim. I put up a big bid to get Kim in my NFBC league. I way overpaid. I thought other people would want to bid more, but apparently not. But I got him, and I tried to pick him up wherever he was available. But I still think Pajes is the better fantasy option here. Definitely for power. Like there's no question about that. And Kim will be fine. I think he'll get you some steals. He'll score, of course, but so will Pajes. They're on the same team here. I just think that Pajes and his power is going to overshadow. The only advantage Kim might have is batting average, right? But that's also a question mark. I mean, we don't know for sure that he's going to hit 300 first stint in the majors. So I'm going to stick with Pajes. I do like the fact that Kim might get you eligibility in a lot of different positions. Pajes is just outfield. And then Kim, like you said, might add outfield eligibility. Plus, he already has middle infield. That's nice. So, but if you don't care as far as that, where you need a player, you just want to say, okay, who's the best option the rest of the way as far as offensive output? I still give the edge to Pajes. Ui's in the house. All right. Drop Rasmussen for Libertor. Now, Rasmussen finally had his first not so good start. And it's funny when you have a player like this that didn't get a lot of hype in the preseason. I think I'm probably the only one who had him on my sleeper list or breakout. I can't remember which one I called it, but I had him on my list. One of those guys I was secretly drafting, and I got him a bunch of places. Not many people really thought about Drew Rasmussen. And now he has his first not so good start. And people are like, yeah, that was nice, but he's done. I still like Drew Rasmussen. Okay, fine. He was bound to have a bad start. And sure, he doesn't get a ton of strikeouts, but give me that solid, dependable pitcher. Libertor is a guy that is one of these former really high-end prospects who has the stuff, right? The arm talent, and just can't find the strike zone half the time. So he's finally figuring things out. He's finally getting better. But I think I just said it perfectly. He's still figuring things out. He is not completed work by any means, right? Rasmussen is a veteran, a little bit more so. He's not that old, but still, he knows what he's doing. Great situation there with Tampa. Libertor is going to have some great starts. He's going to have some bad starts. He's had a lot fewer bad starts and meltdowns like he did in the last couple of years. But it's taken a while just to get him to be an option in the rotation. I mean, they had to move him to the bullpen, not just because of injuries, but also because he could not go more than a couple innings without getting hit hard or just losing control as a starter. So I'm still going to be very skeptical on Libertor, and I'm still holding Rasmussen. All right, Michael is back. What's up, Michael? Would you trade Sears for Bryce Miller in a New York minute? I traded Sears not because I wanted to. I was like shopping him around, but someone in our league, Skull and Bones, who's usually on here, he offered me, I think it was Kurtz for Sears, and I took it and take a chance on the offensive upside. Sears is fine. Sears is a very decent, I don't say high floor, but pretty solid floor starting pitcher that you can stick in there and get you some quality starts. That's it. He's solid. And there's nothing wrong with just boring, consistent, solid. Bryce Miller has not been, but I just finished talking about Bryce Miller for a good 3.5 minutes in today's video. So, Michael, if you saw, I'm assuming you did, and so you're asking about Bryce Miller. If you saw Bryce Miller run down there asking if Sears is enough, absolutely. I would trade much better pitchers to get Bryce Miller. Now, again, I could be wrong on this. Bryce Miller might have other issues going on, but I don't see anything physical, really. Some soreness. Don't worry about that. I don't think that's the issue. I think this is just – he's just a little bit off to start to see. I don't know why. I honestly don't know. I think he will get better. I would definitely take a chance on Bryce Miller. Still love him. I'm glad you asked this. All right, F, always with the good questions. Colt Keith is quietly heating up. Now, I also was a big fan of Colt Keith before the season. He was one of my breakout calls as far as hitters go. And I was actually running with Colt Keith in a deep league. It's a 15-team league, and it's a keeper league. It's deep rosters. I mean, deep. We have like 10-man benches. It's a deep league, right? And so it's hard to put together, a really good starting lineup on a daily basis, and really hard to get players off the waiver wire. So I was rolling with Colt Keith as my starting second baseman. Long story short, and I was hating it for the first month of the season. I did swap him out. I've been trying different options. I picked up Adel Amador. That was not any better. I picked up somebody else. And so now I'm looking like, what can I do at second base? And I'm like, okay, Colt Keith is starting to hit. You remember what happened last year? Beginning of the season, did nothing, like absolutely nothing. People were ready to get rid of him. And all of a sudden, he had one of the best months out of anybody. And I think it was in May. And I wonder if he's just one of those guys. Is he just one of these guys? It's all or nothing, right? Feast or famine. He's going to be red hot or ice cold. Well, he already got the cold streak out of the way. So maybe he is heating up. I know it's a little early to say that because, like 2 or 3 good games doesn't constitute, I don't think, a hot streak, especially unless you're, hitting multiple home runs, which is not exactly what he is, what he's doing. But he had a couple home runs in the past week. Let's see. And you know what? They're about to play. And you know what, F, if you're looking for somebody to throw in your lineup, they're about to play in Coors Field. So if I'm going to take a chance on Colt Keith, this is the time to take a chance on Colt Keith. They're going to play in Colorado, and then there's a doubleheader tomorrow. So if you want to take a chance, hey, if you're a sucker, then so am I, because I picked him up again, and I'm rolling with Colt Keith this weekend. So we'll see. And thoughts on Dane Myers? I know I've kind of been neglectful not mentioning Dane Myers on my Marlins. Yes, they're still my Marlins. I did pick up Dane Myers in that exact same league that I'm talking about. Crazy deep, needed, somebody who could help me out. And man, Dane Myers has been like my best hitter for the past 10 days or so. So yeah, I have no problem picking up Dane Myers. It's not going to last too much longer, but grab him while he's hot and dispose of him when he's not. All right, let's get to Brendan. I wish I knew the answer to that, but I'm just going to say what I said again on Beat the Breakout, and I've already said it, I think, almost every week for the past 3 weeks, is it just pick him up now. Just pick him up if he's available anywhere. Just stash him, right? Just pick him up and then wait. It'll be worth it. And there's a couple leagues I've had him stashed all season, and I'm not dropping him now. You might as well just stash him. All right, what about the guy who did get called up, Nick Kurtz? So, again, I did acquire Kurtz for JP Sears. I still think that's fine, might pay off. I've spent way too much on him to get him in my NFBC league, but, slim pickings there. Traded Xander Bogaerts for him. You know what? I'm fine with that because it was about 2 weeks ago. I said Xander Bogaerts. I think he was on my cut list. I was like, you can let this guy go. If you traded him to take a chance on a high upside power bat, I think that is totally fine. I'm good with that trade. I don't think you'll regret this. Again, there's no guarantee that Kurtz pans out, but you take a shot, right? Bogaerts isn't going to be the guy who helps win your fantasy league this year. Exactly. Bet on the upside. That's it. I mean, you said it perfectly. I'll always try to bet on the upside. Especially you're not giving up a guy the upside is, if not completely gone, at least limited. Put it that way. All right. What about, we have Kahu Lazo. Welcome. Is Jason Dominguez still worth holding on to? Great question. So I think so. And in fact, somebody in our endgame league, which is a 12-teamer, it's head-to-head category, still 5x5 category, so pretty traditional, but 12-teamer, someone finally dropped him, let him go. I put my waiver claim in, and I got him, and I'm going to hold on to him. I didn't start him today because not a great matchup, but I'm just going to hold on unless I really feel there's a reason to drop him. So I think so. Again, what did I say? Bet on the upside. It's still there. It's not like he's been terrible, right? You're not glad that you're starting him most days, but it's not like he's killing you. So I'm holding on to him. And I didn't start him today because like Michael Dylan Cease, he's a good buy low. I've been talking about him. Buy low. Yes, I'm buying Dylan Cease. There's no reason he's been as bad as he has been. I think he'll get better. So I'm definitely buying Cease. Cease is going, I'm pretty sure it's tonight. And that's why actually I didn't start Jason Dominguez. Not a great spot there. But you never know. Let's see. Well, looks like Cease is, and this is the problem. His buy low window might close. So far against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, he's about to finish inning number 5, has not given up a single run yet or a single hit. I'm not saying he's going to go all the distance, but if we see a complete game shutout or a no-hitter from Dylan Cease, then bye low. So you always have to buy low when they're at what you think is the peak of low. Maybe whoever has Dylan Cease in your league, Michael, is not paying attention to the scores tonight or doesn't check. Maybe put an offer like right now. And Willie Abreu or Jonathan Aranda, give me Aranda. I believe in Aranda. I still like him. He's been legit. It's not like I hate or disbelieve Willie Abreu. I just think he's going to be more decent, where I think Aranda has much more power upside. So give me Aranda. And then let's go to Jordy Monsione. Welcome, Jordy. Would you drop Max Meyer for Matt Liberatore? No. And so I already talked about Liberatore. You probably heard that. Going to stay skeptical there. Max Meyer, I know, coming off a disappointing start. It's one bad start. Let's not forget the previous, 4 really good starts he had. So, no, I'm not doing this. All right, what about Victor Villegas? Welcome back. Could you get anything for Xavier Edwards and Kyle Manzardo? I don't think you will get, and if you're talking about a package deal, I mean, you're probably only getting something worth getting, significant, if you're talking to a desperate owner who really needs help, either with steals to get Edwards, or for some reason they're just really, really bad off at first base. I don't think Manzardo really has trade value, I guess is the first thing. I like Manzardo, but he's not even owned in not even half of fantasy leagues. There's a lot of people just aren't buying into him. So he doesn't really have trade value, I don't think. Edwards still will, because he got a lot of buzz preseason, the batting average last year, the steals, of course. So if you're dealing with another team that needs speed, yeah, they'll probably take on Edwards, but I just don't know how much you're going to get, because he's not off to a great start, Edwards, as far as the batting average. So you could get something, but I really think the only way this is worth pursuing is if you try to buy low on a struggling hitter. And then just see what happens there. Got to be the right match, though. V-Rush 26 is playing in a 20-team league. I know how that feels. It's not fun. Somebody just dropped Brenton Doyle in a 20-team league. You better bid up. Okay, now you're competing with, I guess, 18 other teams, because the guy who dropped him isn't bidding. In that deep a league, I don't think I want to spend half my budget. I think you could go at least between 30 to 40%, because I want Brenton Doyle, and especially in a league where waivers are super thin anyways. I think this also is where you would look. Maybe it hasn't happened this year. I don't know if you've been in this league before, but try to gauge, and this is the trickiest part, right, about Fab, is try to gauge where you think the other teams are going to bid, how aggressive they are. If you see guys always on the waiver wire being aggressive, then you're going to need to be more aggressive. But I would gladly go 30%, probably not more than 50%. I think that's a little much, but yeah, somewhere in that range. All right, Uwe wants to know, would I drop Dylan Moore for Kim? Yes. Dylan Moore had a very nice start to the season. He's a utility player with some speed, a little bit of power. I know the Mariners are hot now, but I think I still like Kim better. All right, Scion God, welcome back to. At what point do we think Camilo Duvall will overtake the closer role? Yeah, so I noticed that Ryan Walker had a little meltdown, right? Blew the save. And then today he goes right back to him. I think Duvall pitched in like the 6th or 7th inning and didn't give up any runs or hits. But for some reason, Walker's still the guy in the 9th inning. So I kind of appreciate that he's not just flipping, closers back and forth, and he's not giving up on his guy after a bad outing. But Duvall has been good, and he was the closer last year, and they gave up on him to give Ryan Walker the job. Why doesn't it go the other way? So I'm holding Duvall. In fact, I have him in one league, even though he's not getting these saves right here, right now. I still think it does happen. Ryan Walker continues to be inconsistent. So I'm holding out hope for Duvall to get that closer role. No guarantees ever with closers, but I still feel better about Duvall than Walker. All right, Ryan C. Feel like Baz is plummeting. Yes. So I did talk about Baz a couple days ago on one of the videos, the panic video. So Ryan, if you didn't catch that, I break him down in detail. My bottom line there was no, I'm not dropping unless we hear that there's something physical going on. Obviously, a guy missing entire year and a half. It's possible, but there are no big red flags waving for me to make me think, this is it. He's done. I think he'll get better. I'm not dropping just yet, but maybe keep your finger on the trigger. Don't keep it too far away. You might want to drop if he does it again. MK, is Mark Vientos back? All right, good question. So I've been kind of ambivalent about Vientos. Honestly, I'm not sure whether to fully buy in or to say to buy low or to just want to wait and see because he's been better, but not great. I mean, like there are signs like he's warming up, he's getting better, absolutely. But is he really going to deliver what we saw last year? I still think he can. I still think he's worth rostering, in your typical 12-team leagues. Now, you're saying that you have him. Should I sell him off now? I don't think so because we're not talking a sell high. It's not high enough yet here. So I think you're going to have to wait for him. If you don't believe, which is fine, to be skeptical here. If you think that, it's just not going to happen, all right. Wait till he heats up a little bit more to really get some trade value out of him. I don't think it's there just yet. Now, if somebody just really wants Vientos and they're all in on him, okay, that's fine. But I just don't think his value is quite where it should be. Ryan, I'm glad you asked. Okay. Am I stupid to think in the slightest about dropping Trey Turner? Yes. Don't do this. And in fact, if you had asked us a couple of weeks ago, it still would have been a bad decision. But I mean, what has Trey Turner done lately other than MASH? So today, the game is halfway through. He just hit a home run, and it was 2 for 3 so far. Yesterday, he had 2 hits and 2 steals. He's on a 6-game hitting streak. He scored 10 runs in the past week. Why would you drop Trey Turner? Do not drop Trey Turner, period, for any reason. Now, if anything, if for some reason that I would not be able to explain, you don't believe in Trey Turner, okay, maybe now is the time to sell high on Trey Turner, even though I don't feel as high. I feel like this is just Trey Turner and what he does. But I mean, if you really want to trade Trey Turner and get a different stud player in exchange, you could do that. And then you could pick up Jacob Wilson. Look, I love Jacob Wilson too, but he wishes that he was half of Trey Turner. He's Trey Turner in batting average, but without all the steals and not as much power, and on a team that's not nearly as good. So yeah, pick up Jacob Wilson if you can. Do not drop Trey Turner. Just don't. Timmy Tam, Roman Anthony, Kate Horton, Bubba Chandler. All right. So out of the guys that I just discussed on yesterday's video, you want to stash them all, but of course you can't. Roman Anthony has got to be your number one choice here. And then I think we need to put Bubba number 2. Cade Horton, still haven't heard him getting called up despite the Imanaga injury, despite Steele being done for the year. They're thinking about Horton, but he hasn't gotten the call yet. And Bubba Chandler will. I mean, he definitely will sooner, if not later. But even if you told me right here, right now, like they both just got announced as getting called up, I'm going to prefer Chandler to Horton. So it's Anthony, and then it's Chandler. All right. Now, here are the real questions. Hectorius. Sell Sandy Alcantara for Willy Adames. This is interesting. So I was definitely a little bearish on Willy Adames before the season. Didn't think San Fran was a great fit. Again, same kind of mindset I have. Guy just had his best season ever, right? Willy Adames did. Surprisingly good, especially in terms of the stolen base output. But as we've seen, Milwaukee really likes to run. San Francisco, not as much. So I knew that number was going to go down. The power, of course, going to Oracle Park in San Francisco, it's going to go down. And he's not somebody who's really tended to hit for a high average. It's gotten better, but still. I thought this was going to be a down season for Adames, and I still think it will continue to be because it's been a down season for Adames. I really thought Alcantara would bounce back and look great, and I still hold out hope for him. But man, I think it's tough for me to say. Like preseason, I would have said, give me Alcantara. The way he's looked, it's a little concerning. I'm still thinking long-term he'll be good, but man, it's hard for me to say that I wouldn't take the hitter, because what you could do is just basically eliminate your risk here, take Adames, and then I might then go ahead and try to flip Adames for somebody else. So I think it's probably still in your best interest to do this. If you can get Adames for Alcantara, I think that's better. Okay, now we got Raiders 72. I like the Decepticon logo. Very nice. All right, will Max Meyer overcome his struggles? Got the White Sox up next. I mean, if he doesn't do it against the Sox, then we can panic. All right. I'm keeping him. I'm holding out here, and I'm going to keep starting him. Every starter goes through patches where they have a couple of bad starts. We just tend to focus on the younger pitchers, the more unproven pitchers first. The other day, Logan Webb had a really rough start. I think if I'm remembering correct, he gave up like 5 or 6 runs. And nobody even batted an eye because he is one of the most boring, consistent starters in the majors. And he has bad starts sometimes. You don't think about it, right? With Max Meyer, like, well, maybe it's not real. It's a bad start. I think he'll be okay. So, yeah, if he struggles next start, sure, then I might drop him, but not yet. And that's actually a good point, Chandler. What's up, Chandler? Sandy, again, look at the schedule. Now, if a guy is struggling, it doesn't matter who he's facing, but it is the White Sox. So, yeah, Sandy, let's see what he does as well. Hopefully he gets right. And that's exactly right. His value could not get much lower right now. So, very good point. Back to Doyle, full circle where we started. Who would be a reasonable target to trade Simeon for? Well, you know what? Okay, things have changed, and this is back to the very first topic of the stream. The Rangers all of a sudden have shown some life. Now, it takes more than one game, to say that they're back or they're hot or whatever. But I might want to wait and see. Maybe there's something here. All right. So right now, the game is in the bottom of the sixth, about to go six full, and the Rangers have 3 runs. All right, 3 runs and 7 hits. Not an offensive explosion. Semien is over 3. Okay, so let's wait and see. I want to see if he continues to pick it up. I mean, again, with Semien, it's almost the same. Like his value cannot get much lower, right? You can't be doing worse than he's been doing so far. So you might be better off waiting to see if he picks things up, and then you can actually reasonably try to trade him for something. Because honestly, right now, he shouldn't have hardly any trade value. I don't even know who I would feel right asking for if I had Semien, which I don't. But if I was trying to trade him away to ask for something, I would almost feel guilty asking for just about any decent player, because any player that is available on somebody else's team has done better than Semien. And there's plenty of waiver wire options who have done better than Semien. So, I mean, you're looking for a second baseman. If that's what you're looking for straight up, who could you realistically get? Maybe like a Nico Horner. And you know what? Let's go back to Jose Altuve, who I talked about as a buy low. Maybe someone is willing to give up Altuve for him. I would do that. I think it's not unreasonable. Or maybe the Matt McLain, I discussed as well, because the batting average, something like that. Okay. Even though we've come full circle, let's do a couple more questions here. Eddie, there's Eddie. What's up? Yeah, that's right. Give you some props. Hey, I love sometimes I learn from you guys. You put me onto some players and some trends I did not know about. So yeah, of course. I'm not saying I'm going to go pick up Temelko, but if that happens, you get credit. All right, what is up, average gamer? Machado and Brian for Junior and Logan Gilbert. Interesting trying to get Logan Gilbert, because as we know, Logan Gilbert on the IL. So always tricky, very tricky trying to buy an injured pitcher. He shouldn't be out too long, and by that, a couple of weeks. But man, there's always risk, right? And it's an elbow. So obviously, I like buying Junior, as you know. That's who I talked about. One of the other players I talked about today. With Gilbert, tricky, but I think worth it, because if all goes well, a couple of weeks from now, you stash him and he's good to go the rest of the way, then you got yourself an ace. I think this is worth the risk. I'm not sweating Logan Gilbert's season too much right now. So I think I could do that. And then, speaking of aces, Victor wants to know, I have Bryce Harper and Torkelson. Should I trade Harper for an ace? Well, you could do that. I mean, if you're doing that, it would have to be a legit ace. And I think even despite his last start, it's a little late because it was about 2 weeks ago. I was saying go get Chris Sale. You maybe could still get Chris Sale for Harper. You could probably, for Bryce Harper, you should be able to get, almost any pitcher. You're not going to get the guys who are now all of a sudden best pitchers in the league, like Hunter Brown. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, look, it depends on the depth, the pitching depth of the other team. Somebody might be willing to give up a Max Fried to get a Bryce Harper, right? If they need help at first base and they're deep enough at pitcher, it's possible. It's possible. I don't necessarily want to go too far. Again, ace meaning not a guy who's just on the top of the rankings this year. I'm not trading him for Nathan Eovaldi, or like Nick Pivetta. Like we know what those guys are. Really great so far, veterans, but like I'm not giving up Bryce Harper for them. So there's a couple of pitchers you could maybe get, and and try. I think the lowest is maybe you could get like maybe a Logan Webb, a Schwellenbach. I don't even know if that's enough, but yeah, you can do it if it's a legit ace. All right, Ryan wants opinion. Who's better long run, Bryson Stott or Torres? I'm going Stott there. I didn't really sell you on how great Stott is because I didn't pick him in the earlier choice, but I'll take him over Torres. Yeah. There he is. There's Earl Skull and Bones, who we made that trade. I already mentioned in the beginning that trade of athletics. And thank you for the Martian. I know tough to hold. So hey, I might be the sucker, right? Maybe I'm holding him for nothing. Who knows? Okay, Jay Smith, Framber for Jordan. Give me Jordan. Look, I know I said buy low for Framber. That's not low. You're talking about a first round pick, one of the best hitters in the game, who just went on IL. So that makes him potentially a better buy low. Most people aren't just going to give him up because it's a minor IL stint. He does this every year, guys. Jordan Alvarez, check. I'm actually probably going to go check after this because now I'm curious. Has there been a season that Alvarez hasn't been on the IL at least once? Probably not, because that's just it's fine. He'll be fine. I don't think it's anything serious. It's fine. I'm still going to buy low on him. So yeah, give me Alvarez. Then see a couple more here. Oh, are we going to get sucked in on Clayton Kershaw in a rehab start? No, sir. let's do it against major league hitters and actually go 6 innings and then do that more than once. I'm not doing it, guys. I hate to say it. Look, Clayton Kershaw, best pitcher of the previous decade, right? The 2010s, best pitcher in the game. That was a long time ago. All right, no, just like I did not draft Mike Trout anywhere. That same decade, Mike Trout probably best hitter in the game. How long did it take before he hit the IL? Right? Not very long. So I'm not doing it. If you want to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to talk you out of it, but I'm not doing it. Durf Boy, great question. I actually thought about leading with this, the Ryan Presley epic meltdown. And I actually watched most of that on replay. It wasn't like he was epically bad. He did uncork a wild pitch, right? That was part of it, like bad. But he was getting the strike zone and he was keeping the ball low. It's just they were waiting for that pitch over and over again, and he left one out over the plate. So it's not like he seemed like he's just lost it. It was just a really, really bad inning. But at the same time, this Ryan Presley is not the same Ryan Presley from a couple of years ago, right? With the Astros and winning the World Series. He is a guy who's just going to be a kind of a tenuous closer who would hold that role as long as he could. And maybe this is as long as he could. So the strikeout rate is down. He's also a guy who's had some injury issues. I think it's time to let go. I think we can drop him, even if he still, like Ryan Walker, still gets the call in the 9th inning. How long is that going to last? Give me Porter Hodge. Yeah. So I'm going to probably recommend Porter Hodge as a pickup if you need saves. Again, recommended him a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a good time to circle back to that. So, yeah, I would do this. Drop Presley for Hodge. All right, and then do last couple here. Yeah, all right. Freeman, what about H? All right, H. Nate Lowe or Javi Baez? I am still going to need to see a lot more Javi Baez not being terrible. Honestly, I probably shouldn't think this way, but there's some players when you play long enough and you hear these same names year after year and you see the trends. Javi Baez is a guy that pretty much early last year I was like, I don't really have to ever think about him again in fantasy, just like at all. So I have not thought about him whatsoever. He had a nice week, it's good. But he's still a strikeout machine at heart. I don't see him putting together one of his better seasons now that he's older, and it's no. I would just go with low. All right, and then I think we have. Let's do one more. Do we want to keep Buxton? This is Chandler again, by the way. Keep Buxton. I think he could have a magical season, like not get injured. It would take some sort of a voodoo ritual or something for that to happen, or try and trade high before the massive decline, aka injury. Yeah, I'm gonna trade Buxton. So it's tempting to say Buxton is in that category, right? Where I don't have to. I kind of feel that way on draft day. On draft day, I'm like, I don't really have to think about Byron Buxton. I'm not gonna be, that guy who believes and still believes, because I feel like it was maybe 2-3 years ago. I believe it could happen. He could be the MVP. And how many times, you need the football to get pulled away at the last second before you realize it's going to keep happening. So I'm going to sell, because even if Buxton somehow doesn't get hurt, he's just not that same guy from, his prime age, because the power is still there. He definitely still has power. And of course the speed is still there, but he does not hit for average. He's kind of more of one of those all or nothing guys. So he'll have some nice games, he'll have some bad games, they'll kind of counteract each other. He's not quite Lou Bob level, where he's like, 50 homers and steals with a 182 batting average. I don't think he's quite that, but you know what? I don't think that he's somebody you're going to love having in your lineup every day the rest of the season. So I flip him. What's up, Andrea? She's in the house. Jumping in the last second. Eddie going to be back Sunday night as usual. The 2-star streamers, absolutely. And Victor, mentioned this again. Talked about this way back at the very beginning of the stream. Teoscar Hernandez on the IL, and so James Outman gets the call. He did hit a home run. I'm only picking him up if it's a pretty deep league. Maybe your waiver wire is pretty thin, because James Outman does have power, but he does still have a whole lot of strikeout in him. He's not quite a 3 true outcome player, but yeah, he'll give you some power, and he does have speed. And he's in the Dodgers lineup. I mean, that right there. But he's also not going to always play. He might sit against lefties, and he could hurt your batting average. So do you just need a stopgap? You want to take a chance on that he's hot this week? Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I picked him up, but only in an NL only league, because I just needed somebody who could play outfield. So far, so good. And then, yeah, only up to, well, that's a good point too, Eddie. He's only up because of the injury, and so he's not going to necessarily stay up very long either. Hopefully, Teoscar's not too long with Hernandez. It's an adductor strain. May not be in a minimum stint, but it also may not be Outman who's filling the outfield role, because Edman was going to come back from the IL before Hernandez. And then if Kim now is in the mix and he's playing second, Edman might play the outfield. You see Outman still might just be the odd man out, man. All right. Appreciate all you guys. Good solid hour. Good questions as always. Hopefully give you some good answers. If you didn't happen to check today's video, talk about a lot of these players. I know you mentioned the buy low options, some of the ones I'm targeting, or at least I will as soon as I get a chance to look into all my leagues. And I think you should go out and try to make some offers. Again, only buy low if you're actually buying low. Doesn't mean you have to get these guys. It means if you can get them, for a song, try it, do it. Don't insult your league mate, like, with a bad offer, but, see if you can do something that's advantageous to you. that doesn't insult them. And of course, already put out the panic video from Monday, and waiver wire is going to come out soon. Thank you all. And I will be back Sunday night for the 2-start streamers. We'll see how this week's streamers do. Good luck the rest of your week, and I'll catch you all later.